Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We want to note that this meeting is being broadcast at the direction of the board on the NUSD YouTube channel. Some sounds and images from the board will be captured on that feed. If you would like to make any public comments on agenda or non-agenda items, you can see our staff at the side table. We have a few students who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance if they'd like to come up. Thank you. The board met in closed session. Trustee Novato will report out.
Good evening. The board met in closed session on the following items: personnel matters, public employee discipline dismissal release, gave direction, negotiations collective bargaining, conference with labor negotiators Joshua Braff, Chief Financial Officer, and Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, Novato Federation of Teachers, NFT, gave direction. Conference with labor negotiators Joshua Braff, Chief Financial Officer, and Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, California School Employee Association, CSEA, gave direction.
Thank you. Would we now have approval of this evening's agenda? Would any trustee like to make a motion to approve this agenda? Thank you, Trustee Alexander. Second by Trustee Lametta. All in favor? 7 plus 2 student trustees. Thank you. Next is consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull any consent agenda items or make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Pickus. Second. Trustee Alexander, thank you. All in favor? 7 plus 2, none opposed, thank you. Okay, we now will have announcements and start with our student trustees.
Hi everybody, happy May. This month is mental health awareness, so we are encouraging kids to treat people with encourage kindness to self and others as campus-wide message. Staff Appreciation Week is this week. Daily celebrations supported by the PTSA, Trailhead Cafe, Sports Boosters, and the San Marin High School office team. Tomorrow they will have a catered lunch on the PAC patio with ASB DJs. AP testing has started this week and is going on in the library and mini gym from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Good luck to everybody who has a test. Student support Learning Lounge sessions continue Tuesday in room 918 and Thursday at 505, or in room 505 at 4 p.m. Staff meeting scheduled for 4 p.m. or for 2:55 on Wednesday. Sorry, everybody. I've been taking tests. It's been a hard week. District engagement. NUSD staff committee meets on Monday at 4 p.m. and we have our board meeting tonight. So.
Tomorrow is our annual senior presentation night where seniors will present about their internship experiences, college coursework, or outdoor education mentorships with a small audience. It's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate each student's growth and achievements. Last Friday, Marine Oaks leadership class hosted International Food Day, a tradition where students and staff brought delicious dishes from their culture to share. The event was filled with delicious foods, and it's always a day of meaningful connections. The students in our class are working on this year's mural, which features a quid-like design that will serve as both a mural and a new design for Hill Education Center. Inspired by historical freedom, quilt patterns and used to convey messages during the Underground Railroad, The students have designed geometric quilt panels that honor this rich history while adding a creative and meaningful touch to our campus. Thank you.
It's a good segue. I was very, very happy last week to be able to tour Marin Oaks and learned a lot. I want to thank Superintendent Smith and Trustee Pickus for helping to support me in my learning, and also Principal Kessa Early. The colors, the sounds, the students, the environment, the kitchen that you just referenced were all wonderfully magical, and I think supporting students to the best possible outcomes. I was also very happy to stop by Olive Elementary and pick up my my new hoodie sweatshirt. So really, really excited to say go Sharks. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to everybody who is here. Want to start with a staff appreciation happening at many sites. Want to tell everyone here and beyond, we really appreciate everything that you are doing. And a shout out to all the community members and parents who are organizing flowers and doing all the things so that we can show our appreciation for the work that you do. I know many of us are doing lots of those things too. It's not just 1 week, but it's the sentiment. Hopefully that carries through. I also had a chance to visit Marin Oaks and Nova and Pleasant Valley as well last week. It was exciting to see some of the TOSAs doing this really amazing work with our students, and so many of the specialty programs. It's really great to be on the ground. I also had the chance this morning at my daughter's school at Linwood. They were preparing for their testing, and they were dressed up in glitter, and the staff members, there was a parade, and the younger kids were cheering for the older kids for some state testing today. So thank you.
Since our last board meeting last week, I spent the week in Washington, D.C. with the California School Boards Association. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. It's called the Coast to Coast, and it's a federal advocacy group, and it was the biggest group they've ever had. This is the 4th year of doing it. It was 300 plus trustees and superintendents around California converging onto Washington, D.C. To advocate for federal funding, a lot of it around special ed funding, IDEA, ESSA funding, which is all the Title I, Title II, Title III funding, school meal programs, and as well as the E-rate program and prioritizing cybersecurity. And the other items were continuing to fund grants related to attracting and retaining teachers. Also the federal funding to help districts address staff housing. So we all met as a group for a few days, and then just learning all the different ins and outs of all those priorities and what's related to them. And then we were able to meet with our congressperson. Congressman Huffman is our representative, as I think most of you know, for District 2. He was unavailable. He was meeting with Senator Schiff at the time. So we met with his chief of staff and their education staff member, and we had a good half hour to sit. And it was myself and 3 other representatives, 2 from Ukiah Unified School District, 1 person from the Del Norte County Office of Education, and then the superintendent from the Reed District here in Marin. So it was 5 of us, and we were able to go through, we each picked an item of what we wanted to talk about. I stuck to the workforce housing and attracting and retaining teachers, and so we all picked an item where we were able to advocate for that. So it was a good week. It would be nice going forward to have a good representation from Marin County. But I'm glad I went, and we'll see what happens. It was an interesting time being there during everything that's going on. So I'm glad I did it.
So Tuesdays are always my day of reflection. I think back on all the stuff that I've got going on that I'm doing in terms of supporting our schools and staff. And when I was looking back today, I was actually a little too busy, so I didn't officially write this all down, but I realized I was standing on a corner a lot of my time the last couple of weeks. And before I go into standing on a corner, I figured I'm never going to get an audience as big as this to say that I've got 2 beautiful Belgian Malinois foster pups, if anybody's interested. But going back to standing on a corner, I've really been in a place where I'm sure many of us are in terms of all the things that are going on at the federal level that creates all this uncertainty and a lot of anxiety. And for me as an individual, looking at the impact that it has here at our district. And so I've been out there just hoping that we can have voice and get some answers and feeling better about like what exactly can happen, going back and forth. There's this, well, he can't do this, this can't get cut or this can get cut. For me, it's like, well, I need a little more certainty to know, okay, can we count on those federal funds? And I don't know where Josh is, but I appreciate, I know many of you may not be here later, but if you are, the presentation that's proposed for later tonight about where our funding from the federal government is, because when I'm out talking to the community, people want to know, okay, can he really take our special ed funds? How much money is he going to really take? And our answer has been, that's guaranteed, or well, you start breaking it down as the presentation will show tonight, and there's some areas where we could, maybe have some exposure, and then we get hit with, I don't know if you all saw in the paper, but the funding that we had for our mental health services, and through the Marin County Office of Ed, and just seeing that, just got pulled. So I'm sitting here saying, I wish we had more certainty around that. And so I am going to be on the corners and advocating and doing what I can, because I believe that we should have adequate funding and stability in what funds we receive, and not be questioning whether or not we're going to be seeing those federal dollars or not. So on a more light note, I want to mention the tour of Novato coming up on Saturday. I'm sure it'll come up with other trustees, but I offered to go to sit and read at Betty the Bookmobile. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And I thought, since I'm always mentioning it, I brought the book I'm going to read again, Interrupting Chicken. I've mentioned it a few times. And so come see me, come say hi, bring your kids. I want to read the book. I have a couple others that I've actually been collecting too. And so I look forward to reading to the kids and seeing smiling faces and everything. And thank you to our staff and teachers. We appreciate you.
Just one thing, nothing to report, but I will be at Tour Novato riding the 16-mile one, the longer one. Looking forward to riding with anybody who wants to go. Maybe do 2 laps. Anyway.
2 laps? Good evening. I was able to get involved with the Novato Inspiration Student Achievement Awards and the reclassification ceremony. I want to thank our district staff for putting that together. I know it was a really busy 2 Wednesdays from 5 to 6 or 7. So thank you so much. And also was part of the district equity imperative community committee and the district safety committee. I want to thank the parents that participated in the Equity Imperative Committee. I know we met during the day, and the teachers that made time for this important work. I also want to give a shout out to our little ones in the audience advocating here today. It's really nice to see you and our little ones here. So yes, thank you so much.
Okay, I had the pleasure of attending a conference at Stanford about AI, and I've had some subsequent community meetings around what private sector resources they are to help support AI education in the future. So hopefully we can make some headway on that. A lot to discuss there and a lot of exciting possibilities. I also want to share that the California PTA recently gave a Spotlight Award for programs for student achievement to the Sinaloa PTA for their Wellness Hub. That's a very distinguished award with a group of people that see many, many things happening throughout the state. So we're very proud of that. And I do hope everyone attends School Fuel's Tour of Novato. It's a wonderful event. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Yes, we will have a tent down at the community fair on Saturday. I think it's from 10 to 1. So come on down and say hi. I think we have a CTE focus this year, so you can come by and make something. So thank you to our staff who's going to be involved with that. Absolutely shout out staff appreciation this month for both our classified and certificated and administrative staff. Unfortunately, it's also testing month, so there's a lot going on. Good luck to all of you who are still testing. And I think it's a lot of AP and CASP testing at the different levels, and maybe a little LPAC. We have a few open houses yet to come, so we're excited about those as well. A shout out to Rahin Nazim. He's from a San Marin student. He won an app contest that was sponsored by Congressman Jared Huffman. It was a national prize, and he was first, and it has to do with wildfire safety. So shout out to him. Yeah. And I was belated, but I did thank all the principals and assistant principals because it was a Principal Appreciation Day last Thursday. And then when continuing with gratitude, we will be having a special event here at the district office celebrating with coffee and treats with our partners. We have so many partners in our community who come and support our schools. And then a couple of public comment follow-ups from last meeting. We look forward to bringing back some of the updates to the dual language program on our June 10th meeting. And we are still working together to approve the wellness coach job description. Those were 2 items that were followed up from last time.
Okay, our first presentation this evening is from our AVID teachers and students. This is a wonderful program we have in our schools, and we welcome you.
Boys, come on over here.
Rancho and AVID had a strong connection for many years. We started a partnership with Rancho during our 11th grade AVID class with Ms. Corsetti and continued with our 12th grade AVID class with Ms. Leith. We've been able to build a sense of community with the children as we've helped them throughout school, either playing with them during recess or helping them in classrooms with one-on-one issues that they need, such as reading and math.
While at Rancho, we noticed the need for EL student support. We noticed how much the students appreciated the help every time we went. And also, a lot of parents have noticed a very positive change in their students' work ethic.
Every other week, we go to Rancho during our AVID class period. The first day we went, I was assigned to a classroom, and I was told to take out 2 girls and read with them. They were both Spanish speakers, so I read with them in English. They didn't really want to read, and they started talking to me about their problems in school. They told me how they were getting picked on solely based off the color of their skin and the language they spoke. This resonated with me, and I knew I could do something about it. Both girls were very behind in all subjects due to the language barrier and the lack of one-on-one help for these children. At the same time, one of these girls had to help her younger sister as she was falling behind in school. I knew I was capable to help them, so we put a plan in place.
While at Rancho, we realized that many students didn't know how to do the homework or even start it. Many of the 3rd and 4th graders struggled with simple addition and subtraction, falling way behind their classmates. It made us feel productive and proud as we were once in their spot, being native Spanish speakers, learning English at school.
We are proud and thankful for the opportunity that Rancho Elementary School gave us. It taught us that many kids have struggles in their lives, but they are willing to chase their goals and dreams. Our goal for Homework Club is that Homework Club will continue for many years. For students that have struggles with their math, literature, or not being able to speak English, to come to Homework Club and have a safe and fun environment to do their homework.
Homework Club makes me feel happy because I get help with my homework when it's hard, and when I get home I don't have to do it.
Homework Club me ayuda a aprender y a hacer mi tarea porque no tengo ayuda en la casa y así vengo listo el otro mañana con la tarea.
On Homework Club, the high schoolers help me, and they help me understand with my homework, and I feel good with the high schoolers.
El club de tarea me ayuda a hacer mi tarea de matemáticas.
Homework clubs help me in over here, and I like when they help me, but at my house I cannot work because somebody cannot help me, so I like homework club to stay over here and
Homework Club me ha ayudado a aprender más de la tarea y he tenido nuevos amigos y el Homework Club me ha ayudado para tener un nuevo futuro para la middle school.
Thank you everybody for coming. My name is Milton.
My name is Billy. And my name is Daniel.
Does anybody have any questions?
This is so exciting. Thank you all so much for being here. So just to clarify, did you create this homework club after your work through in AVID with the students? You saw this need and you created this? Is that how it emerged, or?
Yeah, so it's fine like this, no? So the first time I ever went to Rancho my senior year, I talked to two specific girls, and I just noticed a lack of, there was a gap in the learning between them and other kids, and I knew it was because of the lack of one-on-one help with Spanish speakers and native English speakers, because it's hard to get all of them. There's a lot of Spanish speakers, and they need help one-on-one, and I knew we could do something about it.
It's amazing. I think AVID is oftentimes seen as a leadership program, but it's not always utilized that way. And this really, I think, exemplifies, as AVID students, you saw this ability that you have, and to just then say, I'm going to do something about it is really amazing. So thank you so much.
Great job. I love the initiative, and you're doing it in such a good way. It's important for everybody here, all ages. Hoping that we can kind of keep this rolling with the next classes, because you guys are going to graduate and go off into the world like you should, successfully. Big question, though. What would you ask us to do? What can we do to help, if anything? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, a big step we took towards this was actually trying to apply for a grant and trying to get some money to put towards supplies, and maybe even just some like healthy snacks for the kids to have, something that they might not have at home, like especially the supplies, so they can come to homework club, get what they can't at home, and help them do their homework with the supplies.
Do we know where that funding is coming from now? Offhand? So we can work on that?
Our very own school fuel. And yes, our partnership with Rancho will continue next year. And again, that's what this all stemmed from that partnership. So we are so grateful. We've been working with Rancho for several years now. We walk them up there from Novato High every Wednesday. So.
What? Into the microphone.
Thank you for that clarification. Is it the funding from school fuel from this last year, or is it is it for next year?
We got it from this year.
For this okay.
Here you go. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to share that I know lots of parents whose kids are in AVID and how much they appreciate all of the skills that students learn in that class and program. And I also want to send thanks from School Fuel, because the AVID students have participated in different events through the year when School Fuel needs extra volunteers. So thank you guys so much.
that's a really hard act to follow. Thanks, Ellen.
Funny.
And then up you said or down?
Down to go to the next slide.
Okay.
If they want to go back.
You ready for me?
Tough act to follow. Okay, our
Good
next
evening,
presentation.
Novato Unified School District trustees. Oh, sorry.
Our next presentation is from Novato Charter. This is their annual report.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Lloyd. I have been the executive director or some form of that of the Novato Charter School since 2012. And I believe tonight I'll start with the ending, which is most of you know that this is my final year at the Novato Charter School. And I've been reflecting a lot because it's 14 years now that I've stood before you and presented annually, starting back in 2012. But next year I will be available to the board of directors as well as the new executive director. And otherwise we'll be spending time on my ranch and with my grandbabies. So before I begin the presentation, I do just want to take a moment to introduce the new executive director of the Novato Charter School, Mr. Chris Capobianco. Can you just stand up? So we welcome Chris. Glad to have you. And this board has been incredibly supportive, and I know that you'll enjoy working with them. One little piece of history, just as a reminder, is that Novato Charter School opened in 1996, and my daughter, who is providing the grandbabies to me, was a TK student that year in 1996, the first year it was open. This year has been busy with the Measure Bond activities, and I am not sure if Josh Braff is here. Oh, I see him in the back. So just a shout out to Josh and JC. Did JC disappear as well? Who have really helped us navigate that, and of course John Delena and Greystone. We have the fences are almost complete, the gates at the entrance and the side, as well as work in the classrooms, the security cameras, the PA system for announcements as well. So that's been, there's JC. Thank you, JC, for your help. So we've really appreciated all the support in getting that work done. Facilities, that's another change in our relationship. We are now having Novato Unified School District provide a lot of the facility support, and that's been great to have that expertise. You know how to work with campuses, and continuing that partnership that way. So of course, what we're really working to do is provide that quality public Waldorf education. And tonight I just brought a few slides to share with you what that looks like. Many of you have been to our school for a tour, and you know that we do not typically use textbooks with the exception of a math textbook in the middle school grades, Spanish textbook in the middle school grades, and then we use class readers. Our students instead create their own textbooks, which we call main lesson books. And here's a few examples. The one with the apple is a first grade example. The other one's a fourth grade example. Moving on up the grades and into the middle school. Many of you mentioned all of the changes and regulations on the governmental level, and we're always striving to continue to provide that education while comply with all of the requirements. So again, I do want to take a moment to thank again Josh and JC, who have been really helpful as we've been working on the bond and the facilities, and the trustees for always being in communication and continuing our partnership.
The ever-present question, how'd the roof hold up over the winter?
You really want to talk about that, Greg? We're working really hard on the roof.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to thank you for all your years of service and congratulations and happy retirement. I hope you enjoy the next chapter of your life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I might come back and stalk you a little bit.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the great work you're doing with our students there.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And welcome to the new director also. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, we're now at non-agenda public comment. We're glad to have public commenters on items not on agenda. 3 minutes are allowed for each commenter. However, we are not allowed to respond to these comments, nor are we able to speak about employees or student privacy situations. The board does direct the appropriate staff member to respond to all comments within 2 business days following the meetings, FYI. Our first speaker will be Don Nicodemus. Our next speaker will be David Blair.
Hello, honored Board of Education members. My name is Don Nicodemus, as you know. I'm president of the California School Employees Association, Chapter 312, here at Novato Unified. I'm here again to speak to the continuing question of quality schools. How do you maintain quality schools? You have quality staff. And we're in a difficult situation in Novato in that we're competing for staff with basic aid districts in southern Marin. And we have to keep our cost of living up, right? In the past several years, we've managed to make some improvements. Before that, there was year after year of cost of living raises. They're not raises if they're actually cuts. If we're facing 2 or 3% inflation and we get 0.25% or 1%, it's just not going to do the job of keeping quality staff. We will see, and I'm familiar with this personally because I worked in the IT department for 10 years. When I was hired in, we were getting interview panels of where 20 or so staff or potential staff would come to be interviewed. Towards the end of my 10 years before I retired, we were getting 1 or 5 applicants, right? And you get into the Novato Unified School District and you see how great it is, right? But then after a while, when you compare what Ross Valley's doing, what Tamalpais, other districts in the South are doing, these are places that staff can go to. And they will go to more and more the more we don't maintain these cost of living adjustments. So we really need to do all we can to at least get close to what we're seeing nationally as far as our cost of living. 2.5% this last year, maybe more next year. Right, so we have to do better. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Blair, and after that will be Mariah Fisher.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. Being a math teacher, I'm going to give you a little bit of a math lesson tonight, and I'm going to dispel a myth. And the myth is that teachers only work 9 months a year, therefore teachers work less than other professionals, therefore teachers should get paid less. And if you want to check my facts on this, you can. I have no problem citing my sources. From all the research I found, the typical professional spends 2 hours and 50 minutes a day of focused, actual work. So let's go 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'll even give you 49 weeks a year. That would be 44,100 minutes a year for the typical professional. And again, please check my statistics. The average teacher has to be on and at high quality every single minute of every period. Most teachers work during their prep period, and generously, I would say most teachers average about 90 minutes of work a day outside of the classroom. Talking with numerous colleagues of mine, they laughed at this number because it was so low, but I'm going to use the low number. Even if we have 180 days a year of school, that comes out to 70,200 minutes a year. That should dispel the myth right there that teachers do not work the same amount of time as quote unquote other professionals. Now, a couple other comments. Everybody, I've been hearing this for 7 years in this district. We care so much about our students. I don't believe you. I don't. I'm sorry. I live in this district. I have kids that go to this district. I don't feel comfortable right now about sending my daughter to this school because I don't see it. Not if you're treating the staff at Novato like this is a temp agency for Redwood, for TAM, for all these other districts, because just in our department alone, we've lost numerous good teachers, and I don't care what the research says. You, again, cite my sources. The best indicator of learning is having a quality, experienced teacher in front of the classroom. Now, if you're going to tell me that it's not you guys, it's not Novato District, it's Sacramento, then here's a thought. In the wealthiest county, in the state with the 4th largest economy in the world, in the United States of America, which is the richest country in the history of humanity, and you're telling me you can't pay Novato teachers a living wage comparable to other schools? Where I'm from in Pennsylvania, we say that dog don't hunt. Thank you.
Next, we have Mariah and then Grace Constantino.
Good evening. Oh, shoot. Oh, dear. Sorry, Ellen. I'll hold it. Sorry. So my name is Mariah Fisher, and I'm here as co-president of Novato Federation of Teachers. I'm proud to represent such passionate, committed, and creative people. It's a pleasure. However, tonight, I speak to you with a different hat. I speak to you as a visual and performing arts teacher here in Novato. I have taught visual and performing arts in Novato for 17 years, and in total, over 20 years. I have experience with 3rd through 12th grade, and I absolutely love the students and families here in Novato. Until this year, the idea of leaving NUSD never crossed my mind, even knowing that I would get paid 20% more down south. I love Novato, and my commitment to our educators and students have always kept me here. This year has been the hardest for me. I watched and witnessed firsthand how the district treated a colleague and a friend of mine, and I'm disappointed and afraid. Things I have not felt at this level in my 20 years of teaching. I do not have faith in our current leadership when it comes to protecting me, nor in your interest in discovering the truth in contentious matters. These feelings have caused me to begin to look for employment outside of Novato for the very first time. I have gathered letters of recommendation and updated my adjoin profile. My husband's keeping an eye on it for me. As I keep an eye on adjoin and consider jobs I see posted, the sadness gets overwhelming. I went to a job interview a couple weeks ago and teared up at the thought of leaving NUSD. What has become painfully clear to me this year is you all have no idea what an educator has to manage on a daily basis, let alone a performing arts teacher. The complexities of producing shows, managing kids on the spectrum of talents and abilities, the heartbreak and anger of students and parents when students don't get a part they want, students feeling they deserve a role, when in reality, they just don't have the vocal strength and vocal strength it requires. Costuming with little to no budget, all of this coupled with, at the end of the day, ensuring all kids have an opportunity to grow. And that opportunity does not mean they automatically get a lead role. As a performing arts teacher, I have been given no guidance on DEI, no guidance on casting, no guidance on what is okay and not okay to ask students when I'm trying to find a costume they are comfortable with. I've been in a bit of a silo. We, as performing arts teachers, all work in silos. Our work is praised, shared on Facebook as exciting things our campuses are doing. It's used as things to show prospective families as highlights of our offerings at our campuses. And then when we don't follow some sort of invisible rule, we are punished, told we are doing something wrong when all we are doing is our best, with no guidance or policy to follow. I am disappointed, I'm worried, I am seriously consider canceling my shows next year. I'm confused, I'm stressed, and counting on you to do the right thing, and so far you aren't. Thank you.
After Grace will be Tim Block.
Hi, I'm back. I'm Grace Cosentino. I'm from San Jose Middle School. I teach science, AVID. I'm the NFT vice principal for middle schools. I want to talk to you all today about how teachers put in for paid time off. In our notification and sub-finding software, ASOP or Frontline, if you look, it goes back and forth, we are required to give the specific reason for that time off. We have to say if we are sick, seeing a doctor, parental leave, or personal necessity. This is with all staff. This is an invasive and personal question of our needs. Each one of these reasons are not needed to be expressed. It builds expectations. Sick? What kind of sick? Is it anxiety sick? Is it flu sick? Are you seeing a doctor? Why does HR need to know if I'm seeing a doctor? Then we have the personal necessity, which can be rejected. If my personal necessity doesn't line up with what the site deems fit, weddings, graduations, a sick relative, picking up somebody from the airport, seeing my last grandparent who's 93 years old, what is okay? And what's going to get rejected? This is all very confusing. The worst part is that if we click the incorrect option and overuse a personal day, but we have sick days that we have docked, it then comes out of our paycheck. This message is just telling us all to call in sick no matter what. I'll say that again. This message is telling us all to call in sick no matter what. We don't want to lie, but we're put in a position where we're literally in a corner. If in negotiations we have advocated to change this cost will be zero to the district. We simply want to be able to select PTO for all absences that I initially listed. This was turned down with no explanation. We want clarity on this. With it being Mental Health Awareness Month, we can use this as an opportunity for growth. At San Jose Middle School, we had an amazing mental health week. Shout out to Megan and Evan. We had an organization come and talk about reaching out to get help. Like, what do you do to get help when it comes to your mental health? The question was, why do people not reach out? And it comes down to one word: shame. As someone who has a diagnosed panic disorder and OCD, I understand that shame. I don't want to disclose every movement I make outside of school. If I am in need for a mental health day for my own health, do I put it in as sick, personal necessity? If I get rejected, I might get rejected if I say the wrong one. And then will I be docked pay because I'm just trying to take care of myself to stay in this district? And in some cases, for some people, including myself, to stay alive. Making this change to our contract does not cost the district any money. It gives autonomy back to staff. It is the respect that is deserved. Not coming to an agreement on this language disrespects our needs. It feels like control. We don't need to be controlled. Thank you.
Hi, school board. Tim Block. I am the treasurer for NFT. I am also a science teacher, and I teach STEM and STEAM physics. Last year I taught chemistry, and I've been teaching a 1.2 for the last 6 years. And I asked to teach it again next year because I can't afford to be here. But before I start going into that, I wanted to thank HR and payroll. Last year I needed to make some changes with my insurance needs, and they got it in right before the deadline. So I want to do a thought-out thanks before I do anything else. But a quick thought is, on the bottom of our not payroll, but our schedule of payment for step and range. On the bottom, it gives all the percentages that the district has granted us since 2005. So I said, hey, I'm gonna add those all up. So I added up all the percentages up to this year, and then I added up, I wondered what inflation was between 2005 and now. And it's a 10% difference, which means if I made $100,000, I'd actually be making 90. I'd be making less now than I did in 2005. And that's one of the reasons everybody behind me is here, because you've got to make a really hard choice. When Josh comes up and brings a big TV and presents numbers to you all, I challenge you to challenge Josh, because Josh is making decisions from a place of safety. He wants the district to be solvent into the future, and I commend him for that. But he is also making that very, very, very conservatively for the future. So please, we're 10% behind just in inflation. I make less money now than I did way back then. Please challenge Josh. Josh, can you find any more money anywhere else? Because he's the person you're listening to. You go into closed session, you sit down, Josh gives a presentation. Please ask him very challenging questions. What is that? What is that? Where is that money going to? What does that administrator make? What do they do for the district? Do they bring benefit to the classroom? I'm in the classroom. I walk around this building. I've been here 17, 20 years, I don't remember. And I walk around here and half the people I don't even recognize. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they support me in the classroom. I don't know. Now, I've had a lot of your students or sons and daughters in my classroom, and hopefully they speak good things about me. But in the end, I want to stay here. I like teaching. I like Novato. But like Mariah, last year I went out and looked for other jobs, and I interviewed. My daughter didn't like the school I was interviewing at. She wanted to come back and go to San Marin next year. So I love my daughter whole bunches and lots. I said, okay, let's stay. She wants to go to San Marin. So she's doing the STEAM program next year, and I'm super proud of her. But that means I'm locked in for 4 more years here, and I'd like to be able to be proud and pay for some bills in the meantime. But I need your support to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to item 12A. This is the student assessment data overview. We have Dr. Julie Sinyard presenting.
All right. Good evening, members of the board, student trustees, Dr. Smith. Thank you so much for having us come this evening. And I'm also bringing our director of TK through 8, Lindsay Broden, to kind of help me with this presentation as well. And so right now, this is one of my favorite times of the school year. We're bringing you guys a bunch of data and a bunch of reports in the next coming weeks. Kind of setting the stage a little bit. At our next board meeting, we're going to bring forward our school plans for student achievement, and this is some of the data that the staffs are looking at and analyzing and reviewing and creating their plans. In addition, we are looking at the data that'll be forthcoming in just a second here and really trying to see, are we on the right path? Are our plans correct? And make adjustments as needed. And so just kind of a quick refresher. Great job to everyone. Thank you to our teachers and our staff. We were taken out of differentiated assistance last year. We had been designated for differentiated assistance because of our academic results in English language arts and math, and for chronic absenteeism. And kind of the 2 big areas of focus were our students with disabilities and our English language learners. So great job to everyone, the DCAN team, teachers, teams, administrative teams, and attendance teams, really looking and addressing our chronic absentee issue. So great job. And then this year, again, good work is happening. The only school that is receiving additional targeted supports and intervention is Marin Oaks. They are identified for kind of graduation rate and suspension, and this is for our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And so staff has been working, kind of disaggregating the data, what's happening. And one of the big things that we found, and I brought up earlier this year, was a number of our students who were kind of recent to the country, recent to our school districts. In the 11th and 12th grade, a bunch of our newcomers were coming, and basically the day that they turned 18, they withdrew from our schools and entered the workforce. So that was a big significant factor, really impacting Marin Oaks. Okay. And then just kind of a little comparison here for our chronic absentee rate. The yellow category is our rate from 23-24, and our orange category is our current, as of May 1st, our data for kind of where we are heading. We've had a little bit, the trajectory stayed pretty flat, which is great. We've had a couple rises here and there. We've definitely had some wonders about certain of the increases, especially some with the big flu seasons that we've had, kind of change in political climate as well, and just wondering if that has a great deal to do with this. But again, the teams are working hard. We're maintaining low chronic absenteeism rates. Again, another huge shout out to all the attendance teams who are really trying to focus on incentivizing school, positive reinforcement, celebrating kids, exciting about being at school. Kind of working with all of our partners, our community partners, North Bay Security Group, to help kind of address any barriers to attendance and dealing with kind of some wellness checks, things to that extent, and really looking at kind of getting to the root cause. If kiddos aren't coming to school, what's happening and how do we need to do better? And then kind of the next big area that we're going to focus, I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay for a little bit here, is kind of our local data assessments. So what you're going to see right now is kind of our end of year of 2023-24 and our mid-year progress as of now, and kind of where our sites are at our elementary, middle, and high school levels.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about our English language arts local assessments. We use currently Imagine Galileo for our benchmark assessments that we complete each year in a trimester type way. So about 3 times a year, we have some type of benchmark assessment. And it's interesting because typically we would want to do a year over year analysis and bring that data. And we haven't completed the end of year benchmark assessment for this school year yet. We're just starting that window. But it actually was kind of cool to look at the end of the year last school year compared to mid-year this year, because it shows us where we're at in tracking with our progress from last year. And what was interesting about this is that many of our school sites have already surpassed their ending place from last year with their data this year at the mid-year checkpoint for our benchmark assessment. So for instance, out of our elementary schools, we have Hamilton, Loma Verde, Linwood, Olive, and Pleasant Valley, all at the mid-year point, surpassing the scores that they achieved at the end of last school year. So that means that they'll continue making growth, and that growth is remarkable for this school year, even as of February when these assessments were occurring. The other sites that I didn't mention, as you can see here, are very close to where they ended the year last year as of February. So if we move on to middle school, you'll see that Sinaloa and Hamilton have, oh, thank you. Totally forgot about that because I have my little thing here. You will see that Sinaloa and Hamilton have already, as of February, surpassed their end of year benchmark assessment scores from the spring of last year. And San Jose Middle School, I did double check today to kind of compare where they were at mid-year time last year, and they were just about at the same place that they were at this year. And so that was comforting to know, and our goal would be to get all of our schools achieving past the end of the year point by mid-year moving forward. And then for high school English language arts, you'll see that we have San Marin High School exceeding where they ended the year last year, and Novato High very, very close to doing so. So I would imagine by this point, now that it's May and not February, that would look different if we were to take another dip right now at that. And Marin Oaks also very close to surpassing their end of the year status from last year. And so once again, what this is telling us too is these are students who are meeting and exceeding. And one thing that I find interesting with our students' performance here is that the exceeding portion of meeting and exceeding students per standard is a high percentage. So that it's about split between students who are at standard and then those who are very clearly surpassing the standards. And so that's something I wanted to point out because that's not always the case. And so that's something that caught my eye in my first year here. I would say that one of the things we could credit some of this to is our consistency with our PLCs and our data cycles. Some of the schools that have probably the most refined practices around that are the ones who we're seeing the most growth with. So I would like to encourage all of our schools to continue their work in that area. And the way that it's directly connected to our interventions and what students need, especially around universal access time at the elementary level, is powerful. And we'll see these types of shifts the more that we can dig into that and really refine those practices further. And now we're going to move on to math.
Okay. And then I am going to talk a little bit about our math. And again, kind of as you're seeing similarly to the English language arts data, that again, the end of year and mid-year, we're making great growth and or exceeding. One of the other exciting things, and I do want to kind of do a huge shout out to, is really kind of talking to our math task force and really looking at math across the district, how we're strengthening our practices, how we're working together, how we are really going to build a TK-12, the vertical articulation. And I think more to come, and in the coming years, just excited to see these numbers continue to grow and grow. So this is the elementary site. Math at the middle, we still have some work to do with math at the middle school. And this is, an area where there's a change when you go to 5th and 6th grade, some of the challenges that we're having, and again, really trying to address our common practices, the best instructional opportunities, increasing professional development. So good work coming. At the high school level, to really kind of understanding what the trajectory is for our students leaving 8th grade, jumping into 9th grade, the new expectations, and being very clear with those expectations and making sure our classes are aligned. So that is it. And this is just our kind of quick summary of everything that we've just shared. But again, working towards an ELA, working towards exceeding the 23-24 outcomes. Lindsay already mentioned the elementary sites that are surpassing. Again, middle and high doing great, and more work to come in math. The other list here, the next thing that you're looking at is kind of our students on DNF list, and these are at the secondary level. So we're looking at San Jose, Sinaloa, Hamilton, Novato, San Marin, Marin Oaks, and kind of our overall trajectory. The orange line kind of shows our end of year, end of the first semester in 23-24. The red line shows the number of progress reports where students were earning D's or F's at the first semester. And then the yellow line shows the end of semester, first semester of the 24-25 school year. So again, we're seeing the numbers go down. This is all wonderful news, but again, we need to continue to focus on keeping to reduce this trend of students earning D's or F's. And so again, we're moving in the right direction, but definitely more work to come.
Sorry, is it just even one?
Yes, correct. Then the next slide we're going to look about is talking about our A through G eligibility. And this slide, I've had a little trouble with this A through G eligibility. And one of the things that we're finding in terms of understanding this data, we have Novato's number, Marin Oaks is not, students are not on the A through G track. That's why they are at the additional alternative school. But one of the challenges that we're having, and this is, I'm hoping our CCGI program will help, when students are taking community college courses, if those are not on their transcript, it's showing that our kiddos are not eligible for the A through G criteria. So if I have a student who is taking a class, say a world language class at a community college, if it's not on our transcript, it's showing that the student is in error, and because as we're going through all this data. So I believe these numbers are higher, and we're continuing to work to refine this system to make sure, because I know we have some students who are, there's students that we are missing until the end of the season when we can find out all the data of, oh, we just forgot to turn in our transcript, or we forgot to tell you this. So this is definitely an area of focus for us. So I do believe this number is higher. Right now, these are the students who are eligible, and more information will come towards the end of the school year. And then kind of looking at our engagement data and the suspensions compared to 23, 24, and 24 and 25. Yellow is the 23-24, and the orange is the 24-25. Again, we're seeing a decline in suspensions, which is wonderful news. There's certain areas where we definitely need to continue to focus. Information that we're sharing is increasing positive relationships with students. But again, when disciplinary infractions do incur, we must address those. A huge shout out to Mike and the team for creating the discipline matrix, which I really think has helped administrators administer discipline in an equitable and fair manner. It's very clear when you would suspend, when you wouldn't, and keeping track. Again, the sites are looking, they're disaggregating their suspension data, they're looking at our subgroups. Are we over-identifying students? Are we being disproportional in our discipline in early results? That does not seem to be the case. It seems pretty average in terms of population. So that's good news. And then again, an area where we can continue to grow and build. But again, a ton of the work that was done with elementary and middle and high school with the PBIS, the Positive Behavior Intervention Framework, where clear expectations are very understandable for students and creating positive learning environments. So that's great. And then finally, we have our percentage of students feeling safe at school. This is kind of just the conglomerate response, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next presentation with the Equity Imperative Committee. And this is kind of the overarching view from our thought exchange survey that was given at the end of January. And so again, areas where we want to focus, Dr. Smith will talk about where we do need to disaggregate our data, who are these students, subgroups, there's anybody not feeling safe at school, what are the reasons, and really hearing from student voice and talking to the students about why they are or are not feeling safe at school, and kind of continuing to review that. And so that is kind of our overarching view of our student data. And then next meeting, you'll hear kind of the sites are going to kind of give a similar report in terms of the middle school, high school, and elementary perspective. And teams are working with their site councils and all that fun stuff right now to get everything approved for your approval. And so that being said, can I answer any questions?
Two questions. Why don't we have the math for high school data?
They have not given that. So we're also looking at moving towards what's called the MDTP examination. So we're going to have an end of the year example for that instead of the Galileo.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then my second question for the AG requirement data, are we increasing our AG requirement for both high schools? Can you see that trend increasing, or is it the same?
It is really similar to the last 2 years, that just kind of looking at. And so that's why when we were doing this, the transfer of our data over to the CCGI, and I'm totally forgetting what the acronym stands for right now, going through all of our errors that we're showing and saying, oh, you know what, kids are doing this, but we're not recording this, and we haven't recorded that in the past either. So that's why I think there's a disparity with the A through G eligibility reporting, because the last 2 years have been kind of stagnant so far with what I've seen.
Yeah, I guess I want to challenge us to see how we can increase that. Like,
absolutely.
How do we get more students to go to college if that's what they choose to. And obviously there's other reasons why they're probably not in the AG requirement because they're probably doing a career program. So yeah.
Right, and then, but again, like I said, we want them to do the career programs too, but you have the option. So like, and again, with the new platform that will be coming and we rolled out next year, kiddos create their 4-year plan, and so it'll be give you like red flags if you're not on the A through G track. So it's going to be much more visible for students, and so it's going to support the counselors, it's going to support staff kind of with that. If kiddos aren't on the track, it'll be quickly demarcated in your 4-year plan what you need to do.
Perfect. Thank you so
Sure,
much.
no problem.
So I have 2 questions, and one following up on that. What was intriguing to me in having 2 high school students was your identification on the A to G that it's potentially because things are not picking up. And I was just thinking for both of my children, they do not look like they're on track. They do a lot of the online, the language is all online. Would there be an opportunity to see with whatever data you pull, and I don't know how it's pulled, if that's what's being missed? That might be like an easy identifier that it's the kids that feel like there's no language opportunities, or if they're in MSA or STEM or something, then they're doing that out on the side. I think that.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's why we knew, because we were looking at the kiddos, because again, when we were transferring our data, it gives us error lists. So you can look at the student ID number, we'd pull up the kiddo and say, wait, is this something that we did an error on our transcript? And it'll indicate, every other indicator is met except for language.
Okay.
So that's why we know it was language. There's some math courses, things along those lines. And it's just knowing who the kiddos were, which is wonderful to be in a small district. I mean, large district, but small district where you're just like, wait, oh, I know this kiddo. Wait, hold on, who is this? And getting the information. A lot of that was just like, oh, no, we know that kiddo was taking an online or a community college class.
Okay. Yeah, I think that language component is probably a huge piece, because I know my friend, my girls' friends are doing it that way. So that's a big group. Okay, so
Correct.
Thank you for that. That was actually
Sure.
originally not even one of my questions, but I found that really interesting. My one question was actually at the start with the chronic absenteeism, and I know that I actually am really familiar now with it because I know I've asked before what that means. But then I start thinking even more, and my question is it that you're absent the entire day? Is that the criteria, or is it because there's a portion of the day?
No, so if you come and we take attendance, you are considered in class.
Okay.
Yes, so it's if you're
It's
gone
the whole day. Okay.
If you come for a couple periods and then you leave, then it's just a period attendance situation. But so the chronic absenteeism, as long as you show up for
Got it.
one portion of the day, we get to count you.
Okay, because as a mom, I know there's like challenges now, like with making like I hate pulling my kids out of school, but it's getting harder to find dentists that take time other than this. There's all these things that are impacting their ability to be at school, and I'm sure it's not just my family. So I'm glad that that's not rolling into that, but it's something that I'm aware of, that we're all trying to do these things after school hours or whatever, and there's just no availability. So thank you.
Thank you for all of this data. There's like so much in here to talk about. Just some things that are kind of floating in my head. One is, you look at some of these percentages and we're seeing so many positives, and that's really exciting to see. And also some of the numbers are just still low, and which is hard to see. So both of those things are happening at the same time in my head. And I just wanted to, just for the rest of the board here, a little teacher perspective on some of these numbers. I think sometimes when we look at numbers and we're like, you just got to work harder to bring the numbers up. And I just wanted to say, if it needs to be said, that it's just really hard to move the needle when you're trying to build skills for kids. And so I just wanted to put that out here, that these numbers are low and some of them are really hard. And also it's really hard to move this needle. But it is really exciting to see that the needle is moving. And I've been really impressed with the data cycle work. I know you said that might be some of what we're seeing here. When we were just touring and we were at PV, for example, last week, in the universal access time, we saw Atosa, who was like doing some of this work and was talking about how the proficiency-based grading scales are really helping them zone in on the skills that the students need. So just that kind of, it was helpful for me to see that in action, to think about the proficiency-based work that's happening here and how that is helping us kind of move some of these needles, which is also making me think about, the tight budget situation that we have, and those TOSAs are really doing a lot of the work that is moving this needle. And so just for us to kind of keep that in mind as we are having hard budget conversations. We want to see the needle moved, and we also have limited resources. So wherever that leaves us, just wanted to kind of put that out there. So lots of thoughts here, but thank you so much for your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Smith bringing us a staff report, Equity Imperative Committee update.
All right. Brave members of the team who are here to present can come on up. All right. So when I brought this idea to you about an equity imperative committee, I called it. It was October whenever we kind of reaffirmed our equity imperative last year, and we were looking at it. I called it a committee. And now that we've spent more time together, there's 30 of us on the team. We're a team, right? As we've dug into this work. Okay, so how we got here. These are the people who we talked about inviting. There's not the exact people. I didn't list all 30 of them, but we do have trustees who have attended and are part of this, so thank you. Did I not? Oh, I do. Oh, phew, I put you on there. Okay, you're on the list. And so we, diversified across the sites. We diversified across the staff members. We had parents. We had students. And we have some suggestions at the end about how we might change that up a little bit, but here we go. Here to present with me tonight, we have Mr. Andy Boone, who is our principal at San Marin, and we have Janelle McGoldrick, did I say it right? Okay, who is our TOSA at San Jose Middle School. We have Allie Green, co-principal, Novato High School, and Juliet Jones, who is our assistant principal at San Jose. So I'm gonna keep moving, and then I have one more slide. So the purpose of this team is to say, okay, so we have this equity imperative, and we say these are groups of students that we have to move the needle for, but how do we know if we're doing that? What are the check-ins along the way so that we can keep moving forward, and how can we build a team that is collectively committed to this work, not just the team that's sitting at this table here. So the annual updates that I've done were November 7th and then October of last year. And here we go.
Great. So we had conversations about lots of our student groups, but we decided to focus on Latino students, English learning students, and students with IEPs. And we looked at a lot of data, both academic achievement and community and well-being of students.
Okay. So this is now a graph you're familiar with, right? And so we don't need to say anything more about this except for we delved into those three groups and looked at it a little more closely, the three groups that we talked about.
Some of the data we looked at, which is common, and we saw it in Julie's presentation as well, is our student D and F list. So again, what we've noticed is there's been a decline over the last few years. We looked at the last couple years and we disaggregated data for this year every single quarter. And we've made progress, and there's still a far way to go. One thing that we did is that each one of the secondary schools did a presentation on really what we've been doing. And so from Novato High School, one of the things we presented on is what we've been doing around our 9th grade. We feel that if we catch kids in the transition between 8th and 9th grade, it's the most significant place that we can improve student outcomes as they come to high school. So what we noticed was there was incredibly high rates of D's and F's in 9th grade, going back to the 21-22 school year, where it was about 50%. Especially amongst Hispanic boys, which also, as you saw in Julie's presentation, is our highest rates of suspension. So our goal was to increase the number of 9th graders who have over a 2.0, which also incidentally, is when a student can becomes athletically eligible. So that's kind of been our goalpost. What we did is we did the 8th grade transition teams, which we meet with every single middle school, and we learn about every single one of our 9th graders coming in. We've done that for a few years. In 2021, which is our baseline, 48% of our kids had a D or F. In the first year where we started this identification, we had a pretty significant decrease in the number of kids with D's or F's. What we did in that first year was we actually looked at their math. 8th grade and 9th grade math is a really good indicator of post-secondary success, so we use that kind of as a bellwether of things to come. So we essentially cohorted a group of 9th graders, used them to see whether or not they were like our guinea pigs, for lack of a better word, and kind of tested out some of the things of our math supports on that group. So we saw a decrease in number of D's and F's in that first cohort. The second year, we tried the same thing. We doubled the number of kids, and we still saw a steady increase in number of kids who were over 2.0. And this last year, the biggest change we did was we implemented something called the Freshman Academic Support Team. We call it FAST. FAST meets every other week. And what it is our 9th grade group of teachers have made agreements so that 9th graders have a baseline commonality in every single one of their 9th grade classes. So we have agreements about things that kids should expect, things that the families should expect from us as teachers. And we use that time to identify particularly kids who have a higher level of need. We call it our Fab 5 to Thrive. Every teacher picks 5 kids, and those are our 5 kids that we dedicate time to every single week to make sure that those kids who are on the D and F lift rise. So that's where we've seen the most significant decrease. So now we're at 24% of our students in 9th grade have a D or an F, which is still not great, but we're making progress.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees and Dr. Smith. My name is Andy Boone, as was mentioned, and I'm a proud principal at San Marin. The slide we're looking at here is particularly meaningful to me, and I'll just give a shout out to the District Imperative, Equity Imperative Committee and say what's really wonderful about the work is that those discussions that happen here in the district office, from my perspective, are real. Each one of those weeks we have challenging, or I should say each one of those sessions we have challenging conversations. The norms are set for those meetings, and they're really meaningful discussions around the big problems that we're trying to solve here in the district. So I just want to say I'm really proud to be a part of the work. We're taking that same sentiment to the site at San Marin High School, and we've spent this year trying to build capacity to have real, honest, and very challenging conversations. As a site leader, if we're going to change the things that we're not proud of at San Marin High School, we have to build capacity to have those real, honest, challenging conversations, and that's the work that we're doing. A couple of those questions that we've been wrestling with are on this slide. One of them, are all students indeed capable of achieving proficiency? Do we believe that? Why or why not? Are all students capable of earning A's and B's? Do we really believe that at our core? And those are some challenging conversations that we've been working with. Moving forward next year, we're going to continue this work. We'll build teams and organize learning walks where we're sharing the great work happening in classrooms. Now we're going to go build teams and go into classrooms and observe, gather data, and then come back and discuss that as a staff. Whoops. Is that the right one? Some of the tactics here, this is more feet on the ground, if you will. We're having one-on-one conversations with teachers and staff really focused on DF students. Our counselors have a new approach this year with scheduling really focused on the DNF list. We have a bilingual counseling intern. We're so lucky to have that.
she's been focused on the DNF list, and we have our data specialist that's working one-on-one, and feel like that we've made a meaningful contribution to that declining number. Thank you.
So next year, what we're going to be looking at is our graduation rates for EL learners and unaccompanied minors as well, and really reaching out to parents and guardians and talking about the standards-based grading practices, so teachers and parents are also able to gauge the students' understanding. And then we also want to be looking at how they are adjusting the instructional practices. The details and the actions are forthcoming, and they should be reflected in the LCAP and site plans and the teacher and the learning and the action plan.
I'm just going to add to that piece about the data infrastructure. So because we are looking at, Julie mentioned MDTP, and we're also looking at IXL as a replacement for Galileo. So we're going to need to spend some heavy time this summer kind of really thinking through what that data infrastructure needs to look like, so that we are providing just-in-time data to folks so that they can inform instruction.
In addition to the academic data, the DNF list, there was a large group of our equity team that looked at our thought exchange data and the youth truth surveys from the past years, and used the primary question we used was, do you feel safe at school? To judge our student belonging and well-being. The first slide is all students. So you can see this is all students 24-25. Then we have the last 3 years of our white students. You can see the numbers there. Then we move on to our first focus group, our English learners. There's not a significant difference in elementary between all students, white students, or our English learners. There's about a 10% drop in the middle school and high school groups, with middle school having the lowest percentage overall this year. Many theories and ideas sort of popped up in our discussions. We talked about potentially drilling down deeper and having different questions that gave us more specifics around why students were feeling this way in subsequent years. Let's see. Feeling not safe, our Latino group. This is higher than our language learner, but still below our white students and our data for all. An interesting noticing we had around students with IEPs is that this is the only group that we looked at where our oldest students are the lowest. So it tends to go down from elementary, then middle, and then high school at least this year.
All right, so at the end of our time together, we really decided that we liked each other. We wanted to hang out more. So this is going to continue for our next school year. And as Juliet spoke to earlier, when we were meeting, we had more and more questions about why these things are happening, and we really want to look and dive deeper into the data and explore more.
I think that's it.
Okay, and I was going to add, did we do the feeling safe belonging in campus action steps?
Let's see. Okay, yes.
Yes, we did.
Slide 16. These are some of our action steps that we had 2 groups, elementary and secondary, and we were talking about students need at least one safe adult. How do we build connections with all students? And we also feel that students need to feel successful at some point every day at school. So where are our academic supports that we can give to help with their grades and attendance? We also talked a little bit about some of our PD that all the admin is getting this year, and hopefully that's going to spread out to our teachers next year through CEL. And we are taking learning walks this year and learning to focus on students and their experience in the classroom rather than just looking at teaching strategies and what the teacher is doing. Focusing on a student, are they represented in class? Do they feel safe how are they engaging with the content. So we hope that all of those things will have an impact and be some of our focuses for next year. Sorry about that. There's the last slide.
Okay, so we did not have, we weren't able to have a parent representative here tonight, but I do have a quote from one of them. I am very grateful for the opportunity to participate in the NUSD Equity Imperative Committee alongside so many thoughtful and committed school leaders from across the district. It was inspiring to collaborate with individuals who care deeply about our children and are dedicated to ensuring that every student has access to a high-quality education. Through open and productive conversations, we identified several areas that need urgent attention to better serve students who have historically been left behind. I'm hopeful about the opportunities ahead and the collective commitment to making meaningful changes that will help these students thrive. And that's from Amy O'Connor, NUSD parent, Olive, and Sinaloa.
This is kind of a half-formed idea, so forgive me for wandering a little bit. But we're obviously looking at subgroups, and I agree, obviously, those are the subgroups we should be looking at, absolutely. But I'm wondering if we need to throw another dimension into it in terms of location. In other words, yes, district-wide, this group versus that group in terms of what we can do, but also take those groups and break them down by location. And this is brought on by an article I read recently about how in Napa, they're having real issues with geography, real issues with different sites having very different results because of parents doing what they do. And I don't know if that's something we want to scope into this, but I just want to bring it up as a thought, because I do know that we have that issue. We've had it really bad in the past. It's a lot better now, but it's something that's always there. And if we can somehow factor that into this, I'd welcome it. But at the same time, maybe it's a different effort. Maybe it's a separate effort, or maybe it's something that can be layered into this. I'll let you guys decide, but I just want you to think about it if you could. Thanks.
Just an observation, looking at the action steps, and it seems like every committee or that we hear from here, it's almost we're all on the same page. It's the same thing. We're all ending in the same, what we need to do, what the students we need to focus on. So there's a lot of commonality across different committees across the district, I feel. I don't know if anybody else is noticing that.
First, I want to say thank you for the time that you've put into this, and the thread for me through this is I'm always about, there's symptoms, but you have to find out what the problem is. And so going and taking a look and getting the data points, but then figuring out, okay, is this a symptom of what? And so it sounds like that's where a lot of this is headed. And I actually intentionally didn't look at this presentation before. I usually read everything, but I kind of just wanted to absorb it all as you were presenting, because as good as things are, that hearing all these other aspects is helpful to me. And something that just hit me was the thing about belonging. And I actually might get emotional. It is so hard being in middle school these days. And and I was thinking about the numbers at the high school level were different and stuff, but and kind of still high. But there's actually, Allie, you could probably speak to 50 clubs that people can belong to, and from anything that you can even imagine. And so I didn't remember if at middle school there were groups or clubs. Are there? Okay, I just didn't, for some reason, didn't remember that. We did a lot of the music, the before and after that was provided and stuff. So I don't know. I liked, in looking at that, I thought, that's a way for at least my kids connected because of music and felt they had a safe place to go. And I know that we've been struggling a little bit on the level of, the musical piece in middle school, but just continuing those efforts is where we can, and finding the, and I know Liz isn't here anymore, but drama, I think, is a place for kids as well. So anyway, thank you. I'm very glad to see all of you.
Could I just say one thing about that too, is the addition of the sports at the middle school level has been huge in the sense of belonging and being a part of the community, having a uniform, having an athletic sweatshirt, and it's really fun to go to the middle school games. So if you ever find yourself after school at a track meet or basketball or soccer, it's a very joyful experience.
Just like a functional question. So I presume there's not admin from every school site as a part of these meetings. So how does information from these meetings and the action steps, how does that sort of disseminate out to the sites? Like Andy, you talked a little bit about what you're doing at San Marin. How does that work for other administration who are not at your committee meetings?
All secondary is present. Yeah.
All secondary is present and represented. And so one of the changes that we wanted to make is to increase the number of elementary admin that we have. But it's just a lot, it's taxing on so many site administrators at one time. However, we do discuss it kind of like accordion style, right? So this is what we're going to talk about at Equity Imperative. We do it at the principal meeting, and then we talk about it afterwards. And then we'll be working with them in terms of incorporating some of these steps into their site plans.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next item is Staff Report 24-25 Federal Funding Report with Joshua Braff.
Good evening, trustees. Yes, this is the federal funding report that we put together. This is the first time we're doing this, so I'll also take any feedback for what you might want to see next time. I'm not going to read the slides to you. Obviously, that's a bad way to present a presentation anyway, but on top of that, there's a lot of information that has come out since I created this document last week. So this unfortunately is a revolving door of information, and it's changing really, really fast. So first, this is an overview of NUSD funding on the revenue side, and I gave some examples here of what each category holds in it. So you of course have the LCFF sources, and that's everything from the property tax dollars to all the state funds that aren't programmatic funds. Then you have the federal sources, which is the things we're going to talk about tonight. State sources are those programmatic funds that are, a lot of the time, they are restricted programs, but coming out of state money. ELOP is a good example of that, Prop 28 dollars. And then local sources. The only one that's a little weird I should mention, that's where parcel tax comes in. So anytime our local source is a lot higher than the state average, and that's because we have a property tax. A lot of times the local sources are only grants or any sort of donation accounts that a site may have. So it's usually a pretty small one. Luckily, here in Marin, parcel taxes are seen as the norm, and we're able to benefit from that. One thing that is a little weird that I wanted to call out from that is Medi-Cal billing. So Medi-Cal billing, when we're talking about federal, that is not a federal grant per se, so we won't talk about it as a federal funding source, but just know that if Medi-Cal takes a hit, if Medicare takes a hit, then Medi-Cal will take a hit. If Medi-Cal takes a hit, then Medi-Cal billing could take a hit. That one is, 8 steps and degrees removed, so that one we won't talk about because that's a little out there. So what is the makeup? It gets talked a lot about if the Department of Education is dissolved at the federal level and all the funding goes away, what will that do to NUSD? And it's about 3.4% of our entire budget. Is that a lot of money? Yes, we have a $130 million budget. So 3.4% is still a lot of money. It's about $4 million for our district. But now we'll talk about in a second the likelihood of anything like that happening. So here are all the different federal funding revenues that we get.
with one exception from this slide. This slide, what we're talking about is Fund 01, our operating income. There's one difference on this slide, which is the bolded italicized one at the bottom that I'll get to in a second. So of course this has all of our title programs. Special education through the IDEA is funded through federal dollars. And then the IDEA, which is linked to the Americans with Disability Act. So the ADA came in first, and the IDEA came in behind that and basically created the idea of special education as we know it now. And there's the bulk of special education, which is, we'll call it normal special education. And then there are these different buckets that is like for private schools, preschools, and preschool section 610. Really all of that just gets combined together because that alone covers about 10% of our entire special education budget. So it's not anywhere near enough to actually cover all of special education. I don't want to give that that view that this is all the special education dollars. Special education as a whole costs about $20 million. And Perkins, which is vocational education, also called career technical education. And then the final part there is the Child Nutrition Fund, Fund 13, FANS, Food and Nutrition Services. That one is an interesting piece because while that says $5.68 million, that's how much money we bring in. And it's all run through the federal program. However, the state of California predominantly funds that. So there is a federal reimbursement, but because California has done the Food for All model, and everyone eats free regardless of the meal, if they have the meal eligibility, California says we make up the difference for that. There's already been cuts to that program this year. And we talked with our Food and Nutrition Services Director, Cody, and he has basically walked us through that it's not really affecting us. This is not a piece that we're worried about because California has already stepped in beginning this year before the new administration took over in Washington already. California was already doing way more than the federal government was. So that we can get into the program breakdown here. Starting with Title I, the main goal of Title I is a lot like the LCAP. The LCAP and Title I are very similar in the targeted populations that they are trying to use these dollars for, which is the unduplicated students. However, Title I has eligibility based on the school itself. So you can't, while LCAP funds are for the entire district, but targeted towards kids with that are unduplicated, Title I dollars go to a specific school for unduplicated kids. Now, as the district, we're able to rearrange those to say, you know what, we can't, you're only giving $13,000 to this school. We can't actually do anything meaningful with that. So we're going to combine it all together and then do something grade level appropriate or elementary versus secondary appropriate. And that is how we have been running it. But you still cannot utilize those services at schools that it's ineligible for. So far, the federal government has said that they are not interested in touching Title I. Title I is to stay exactly how it is. As we looked on the earlier slide, it's over $1 million for our district, so that's great news. Excuse me. Title II and Title III. Title II is for supporting effective instruction. That is professional development for in-classroom administrators, teachers, and support staff. So Title II could not go for a professional development for your CFO, but it absolutely could be for a principal, a TOSA, a psychologist, anyone that is touching the education of children. And then Title III is language instruction for English learners and for immigrant youth. Both of those in the current proposal from the president to Congress was to eliminate both of these. Now, I put that it has the same risks as Title I, and that is true. The Education Department did not create this. The Education Department does not fund it. The Education Department administrates it. The funding has to happen based on Congress's agreement to fund it through the budget. So the president has proposed, get rid of it. If Congress agrees with that, it goes away. If Congress does not agree with that, it stays, or it can change. It varies every year anyway, but it tries, it attempts to be stable. We don't know what that means. But when I say that we've gotten a lot of information, this was the information that we got. It dropped on Friday. And it came out as a big list of priorities, the same way that the governor does the May revise and gives that to the legislature in California. That's what the president did. And then it's up to Congress and the Senate to debate and figure out what they're going to do. But these were both asked to get rid of them. So that would be a huge hit for the professional development of our staff, and a huge hit to the successful programs that we've been able to do for our immigrant and EL population.
Can I, President Jacobson, can we ask questions as we go just because there's so much happening here, or would you rather we hold?
I don't mind.
So when we look at the governor's budget, we have a specific date and we say, okay, we know we're getting new numbers here and we can kind of plan according to this weird calendar at the state level. Mm-hmm. When you talk about Congress approving or not approving this particular funding, could this happen at any moment and so it is hard for us to plan? Or is there a specific calendar around certain funding?
So right now they have a stopgap bill. You might have heard of that in news recently. What was that, last month? They passed a stopgap bill to fund the government for a certain length of time. If anyone remembers that exact date, shout it out, because I do not remember it. But it was for like 6 months that they were going to fund it. The federal government's fiscal year is from October to September. And so the idea would be that it probably funds through September as they're working on the new bill, which actually kind of makes sense because I think it was in March that it passed. So that would be 6 months to September. So the new bill would go into effect October, which means we would lose this funding in October of next year if that were to happen, because they are funding it for that year. This year is already funded. At this point, they could do anything, but that's not the norm, is to pull anything that's already been given. And this money has already been given. So it'd be allocated for the next year. Mm-hmm. Title IV is our smallest bucket, but this also was proposed to be eliminated. This one's a little different too, because it was not done through ESEA, which is the No Child Left Behind Act, versus what we have now, which is ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act. So during Title I, II, and III were much older than that. They were created in the 60s, but they were revised in 2004. Title IV comes from 1965 and has not been revised. This one is at the highest risk of actually being able to be completely wiped out through executive action. It doesn't say that Congress has to do a multi-year budget for it. They fund it per year. So it's easier for them to say, we're not going to do it this year. We'll put it on the docket for next year, where Title I, II, and III have long-term funding goals. And so they have to establish it the same way that they do the military with like a 10-year budget. It just makes it easier for them to say, okay, this is not a priority, move it to the end. This one funds a lot of different things, or I should say it is able to fund a lot of different things. We've used it in different years for like support of technology, but overall it's for support of in-class education, supplies, and materials. It really is kind of nebulous in how it can be used, but it's meant for in-classroom. The IDEA and special education. This was also reauthorized in 2004 and kind of changed in how it's funded. This one is currently not looked at as being reduced through the president's proposal. However, as we have talked about before, the IDEA is incredibly underfunded in its current mandate. It was, in the original language, it was supposed to cover 70% of special education costs, and the state would cover 30%. So if that was the case, we would be getting about $18 million. We're getting 1.7 to 2, right? So we're nowhere near where it's supposed to be funded, but they're also not saying that they're going to cut it. So here we are.
Thank you for that amount, because that was one of my questions, is how much I've been on the special ed advisory committee or whatever for 6 years now, and I was always, it's always, the statement is we don't get what we're supposed to. So that helps that I've never had asked it. I just knew we didn't. So 70%. My follow-up question to that would then be, what are they basing the funding that we do get on?
I think it's worded as a maximum allocation, and it runs through SELPA. So it actually runs through California, and then California distributes it down to SELPA, and then SELPA distributes it out. That's based on our ADA of children with IEPs. There's also a portion in that, as we saw the different buckets. One portion of it is a reimbursement model for how many kids are in assisted living situations. A portion of it is for how many kids that we have that are in early intervention, right? So that aren't ADA kids for us.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, so whatever we get is going to be the same as everybody else, though, then too. It's just because it's this bucket that goes to the state gives it to SELPA. There's no other metrics other than the number of the students.
In the same way that the LCFF is, it starts with a base that's the same for everybody, but then it's a web of different things that create how much we exactly get.
Okay, so it's kind of twofold. It's we're not the only ones that are, because it felt like I'm not going to be able to articulate this. It felt like we were getting hit or not getting our piece, but it's just throughout California. All of the school districts in California are the same. What about other states? And if you don't know, that's okay. But I'm trying to put us into context.
Mm-hmm.
That is it just because we're, our costs are so much higher here, or is it just because the federal government just isn't allocating a certain way?
I've heard I don't know much about other states, I will definitely say, but I have heard that this is a consistent complaint across the board, that this is not funded the way that it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So I'm sure that it is affecting other states. The potential for how much, it probably is that every state gets that same base amount. Now, California does kick in money as well. So I don't know what other states kick in as well to help support that program. So
Okay.
it is pretty nebulous.
No, I appreciate that. It helps clarify a little bit for me, and just the, when I look at things like that, how do we change? You can't argue with the federal government per se, but, what are the components of, what's happening and how we're getting funded? Because it does. It impacts all students, where we get our funding from and what's going to happen. So, as I said earlier, I don't think you were here, but I appreciate all this that you're doing too. So thank you for laying it all out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just to add what we kind of heard in Washington, that Congressman Huffman has introduced a bill almost, I think, every year that he's been in Congress, of getting this to the point where the government funds it where it was supposed to originally be at, as you spoke to. So that was introduced on April 2nd of this year, his bill for this year. So he's trying to gain support from both sides as usual, and we'll see what happens. And the comment that was always made was, if they would just fund this the way they were supposed to, $18 million is what our
Think about what we could do with $18 million
is already with special coming out of the general fund, and just special ed is what our encroachment is. So it could make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I talked about it a little bit, so I won't hammer in on this one. But the National School Lunch Program, there's a lot of federal changes being looked at this one. But California has really stepped in to fund the gap on that one. So as of right now, we have no concerns with the school lunch program. So the risks in federal funding, I think we're kind of seeing it, right? Is that really the risk comes from if Congress decides not to fund these titles. I once got asked by a previous HR manager, what account do I get the Title IX funding from? And Title IX is don't discriminate. You don't get money not to discriminate, you just don't discriminate. But, Titles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 really are based off of funding. They are, you have to do this thing, and here's the money to go along with that mandate. So I think one of the big questions is, if we're not getting the money for these things, do we still have to do them? Then if we stop doing them, what type of effects does that have to our students? Right? So it is a really, really, really big question of how this all works, because if we're trying to keep the services, yet we lost all the money, what do we do? And I don't know if California can step in to fund the entire thing right behind the federal government. And that sort of speaks on this slide here is the possible consequences of what that could look like. And then the specific impact for Novato, we felt it. We're feeling it right now. And that is that Marin County Office of Ed received a $10 million grant from the federal government for mental health and wellness. And they were dispersing $2.5 million to Novato Unified, $2.5 million, somewhere around there, for San Rafael. And then the rest of it was going to be housed at MCOE to do like the overhead support and also provide support for the little districts that didn't have the sort of built-in supports that we already have. Well, the federal government, as you may have seen, the Department of Ed and the Department of Justice, another grant that we were going after, but they've all been dissolved. So they said, well, for the money that was already funded for this year, you're allowed to have that, but all the rest of the money's gone. So that took us from getting $2.5 million to $350,000, from it being a 5-year grant to being a 1-year grant. So all the plans that we had for that money now dramatically change. $2.5 million is a lot of staffing, is a lot of supports for kids, and that directly affected us. And it was like that, right? We went in, I signed the MOU on Tuesday to do that work, and on Thursday we found out we lost the grant. So it is affecting us right now. How is it going to continue to affect us? We don't know, but as we saw, we don't have a huge amount of federal money that comes directly to us. But we don't know what kind of supports we're getting from MCOE that are federally funded. We don't know what kind of supports are in our community, like police, fire, that they're able to help us that are federally funded, and we're going to lose that too. So I don't mean to be doom and gloom about it. It's just a big unknown, and we don't know. And we won't know, it looks like, until all of a sudden we do.
So let's take this mental health grants. Practically speaking, when we talk about that covers staff salaries and all of those supports. So that is money that we had budgeted for next year, correct? That we don't have anymore. So what does that mean in terms of what things look like on our campuses, and how are we kind of responding to that?
So MCOE is helping to support us in that one to make sure that the program can happen for next year while we look for other sources of funding. We're hoping to secure either California, local, private, whatever we can funding that's guaranteed so that we can keep those things going. So luckily, very luckily, we do not have to react to that information today, but we do have to react to that information next year, or else we're going to be up here with a potential layoff or some other sort of program closure, because again, that means $1.8 million or however much that is, my math's off right now, of that program is now gone. So it will have an effect, but luckily we do have the supports to have to deal with it next year while we work to try to find funding for that.
Thanks.
Just going forward, so thank you for the report. I would like to continue this either in the weekly to the board or in your second in your May revise, and then when we approve the budget, maybe just in your narrative, something about the federal piece. That would just to continue the conversation and updating the board.
Yeah.
No, just in closing, I just want to say, again, I appreciate this. And I think for me, really good, perspective on all this. I think what is in the back of my mind, and I spoke to it a little earlier, is that I feel like they're carving stuff out. So even though it's still there, the potential for
you know, and I was diving in on that amount for special ed solely for the purpose of trying to figure out, can they just say, oh, we're only going to do this much? You know, like, what is the reasoning for the amount that we get? Can they keep cutting back on that? You know, the benefit, I don't even think it's a benefit, you know, that we don't get that much money, because if we lose it, it's like not as big of a hit, but it's just, you know, any little amount is just going to add up. And so, you know, it's good that we got the money that we do, but, you know, my hope is that they don't decide that they're going to lower that threshold or something, even though they're still providing the money, but they're reducing whatever their metric is for what they're allocating. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is 12D. This is update on the NUSD Education Workforce Housing Initiative with Derek Nell.
Okay, good evening, trustees. It's nice to see you again, Superintendent Smith. I'm here to give you guys an update on our Education Workforce Housing Initiative. I'm Derek Nell, your Director of Staff Housing Development. And I'm going to do my best to try not to read you these slides, but I am going to touch on them because the things that I think are important to get across. Especially on a night like tonight, where we have a lot of conversations around our employees and their needs. We covered, the issues that we have to deal with our student assessments, the overview, and obviously the equity imperative issues that we're dealing with. And certainly, if we're able to have an employee workforce that is consistent, has a longer tenure, then I think that we'd be able to deliver a more consistent and quality education. So essentially, what I wanted to just let everybody know, that Education Workforce Housing, it attracts and retains high quality educators, improves the consistency of our education and student outcomes. It's good for morale. You heard some of that tonight, that cutting back on turnover and staffing shortages is good for morale. It also builds a sense of community and continuity and stability. And this is an area where if you don't have to worry about driving 40 minutes to go home after work every day, you're more willing to stick around, participate in after-school events, or even bike tours or fundraisers on Saturdays, if you don't have to drive an hour to get back to the town where you work in. Just to remind everybody that we're following the California School Board Association recommended stages and timelines. This is a 6-stage process that we're participating under, and that we've completed our first 2 stages of the preliminary exploration and the feasibility studies. And this is the feasibility study that we had done, and it just basically lists the properties that were considered under this feasibility study, and with those wrote down to 5 exception of fans, which was reduced from the list. And after that feasibility was accepted, just a little recap here. Essentially, the board agreed that workforce housing is essential and maintain quality and consistent education. You wanted staff to prioritize the stronger sites to go first, but all should remain under consideration, and to develop a sequencing plan, which we'll go over a little bit tonight, and that the district should maximize the value of its assets. After looking at the feasibility study, we were shown how properties that were entitled were worth a lot more than selling them as is, and that the board would like to consider expanding in a target range of 190 to 220 units, which represents 20 to 25% of school districts' workforce, which is the recommended target for education workforce housing. You can always do more, you can always do less, of course. And then to continue on working on providing some additional information and research done on cost and financing as we move along. So as we moved into the development stage, we kind of came up with a 4-point plan to get the ball rolling. We established a surplus property facility advisory committee, which is more commonly known as the 7-Eleven Committee. Why is it called the 7-Eleven Committee? It's not where you get your drinks and chips. It's actually a minimum of 7 members or a maximum of 11. And it's really hard to say Surplus Property Facility Advisory Committee over and over and over again, so we just go 7-Eleven Committee. We completed that process, as you know. And then other parts of the staging plan were to develop subcommittees focused on development and construction and finance. You also authorized staff to engage with the neighboring and associated organizations that would be around our properties and might want to participate in the projects we're having, and to have an ongoing communication plan with the community, which I'm going to cover these points as we go forward. This is the 7-Eleven Committee sites that were under consideration. These were the 2 sites that we put forward to be declared as surplus property. That doesn't mean the other sites are not still under consideration if an opportunity presents itself, but we felt that these 2 properties would serve us better if they were declared as surplus property, so we went through that process, and those, the Meadow Annex and the San Andreas site. Been definitely working on engaging with our neighbors and associated organization. Essentially, you know, I just bullet pointed some lists up there. We've been actively meeting with the Marin County Free Library, obviously city officials, county supervisors, and homeowners associations to make sure that they understand where we are and what we're doing. I was appointed to the State Superintendent Task Force on Education Workforce Housing, where I'm proud to represent Novato from a statewide perspective, coming up with legislation and other means for the California Department of Education to assist school districts in their education workforce house planning. I've attended a lot of different things, more recently a developers infill forum that was paid for by the county, but it was hosted at the Marin Community Foundation. Also participated with the Marin County Free Library that's in the process of modernizing all their libraries. South Novato branch is on our Hamilton site, so we were asked to participate there as well, along with the charter school and the child care center out there, which is the North Bay Children's Center. So list of things I've been doing. I've also continued to participate in the advanced training with the CSBA, and I just sort of listed some of the sessions that we've been through, and they also act as an advisory to me. So if I have a question or want to get some independent, objective information, I can contact them and their experts to get some quick answers. This is the development of those subcommittees. We've basically just gotten started on our development and construction subcommittee. This is the committee that's essentially going to help us work towards entitling those properties that I had mentioned earlier. That will be worth more if they're entitled. We decided to work with a firm called LAK Associates, and that's Sean Kenning, and we've only had 2 official meetings today. One of those was a tour of the sites exactly, and then Sean was actually willing to give of his time and participate in one of our CSBA trainings. So he himself, from a developer consultant's perspective, could get a feel for what it's like, the specialty around developing surplus school properties for education housing. The finance subcommittee meeting meets on a monthly basis and continues to work on options to raise funds and the best way to go about paying for our workforce housing. We do have worked out an affordable housing financial consultant RFP, which is basically I use as sort of a guideline and a structure. We will also be needing a market analysis at some point, because when you develop properties, you have to have a realistic understanding of what the market rate in your community is for housing. Community outreach, I've done a lot of meetings. I've met with the Chamber of Commerce, several Rotary clubs, the breakfast clubs, North Marin Community Services. I've met with their housing department. I've also been participate with a lot of the meetings in the housing work that they do. As well as several of our PTAs. We have a regular housing workforce newsletter that goes out. The next one's coming out here shortly, May 14th, and it shows you how we get that distributed. We're up to 223 individuals who've signed up to our website to want to receive that newsletter, and along with any other updates and notifications about our program. And then we obviously keep our webpage updated as we go forward. This is just to give you an idea or an update on the Oak Hill Apartments. That's the project at the San Quentin surplus property that's being run by the JPA consortium between the county and the Marin County Office of Education. As you know, they came and asked us if we would participate and become a bond financing guarantor in their bond program. We agreed to study it, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we have been actively working with council at the College of Marin, and we're going to have our first meeting with Santa Fe City Schools and their council on Thursday, and I just sort of bullet pointed up some of the due diligence and analysis that we've been working on and interacting with Matthew and Ken Lippy on this particular project. Upcoming dates, I didn't get a chance to update this, but we've CSBA has sponsored 2 legislative bills in the Assembly, which we're going to do on the May 20th meeting. The CSBA has asked us to write a letter of support, which we have done for the 2 bills. Those are, I'll give the numbers for those who might want to look them up. It's AB 1021, which clarifies and cleans up previous AB 2295, which was a bill designed to help school districts build housing on their own property. And the other one is AB 1381, which is a fund that's going to $10 million fund that's going to be available to school districts to help pay for their preliminary exploration and feasibility studies. But it also sets up sort of a filtering, list of responsibilities and processes that school districts will have to go through to be eligible for their funds, which will actually protect districts against some of the mistakes that get made in the development process. So that'll be coming to you guys at the May 20 meeting. We'll ask you to pass that resolution, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about any legislation going forward. We also will be back on August 5th. That meeting will be after we receive a decision from the State Board of Education. They meet on July 11th. We hope to hear within a few days whether or not they've accepted or granted us the exemption waiver that I mentioned earlier during our declaration of those 2 surplus properties. So we'll bring a report, the results of that decision, and we'll have some ideas about what we want to do next at that meeting. And then on the 18th, the advisory committee meeting will meet. So went through that as fast, quickly, just to get caught up. And so having done that, prepared to answer any questions.
I see no questions.
All right.
Thank you for continuing to move us forward.
Sure. That's great. Okay. See you guys next meeting.
Okay, our next item is 13A. This is the approval of the 25-26 bell schedule for the elementary schools. Dr. Sinyard.
Okay, thank you. Tonight I'm bringing forth the 2025-2026 elementary bell schedules for board approval. And I want to thank Derek Lowe for his diligence in reviewing all of our elementary schedules and ensuring we're meeting our instructional minute requirement. All of the schedules exceed the state requirement for the minimum minutes required at each grade level. And with that, if anybody doesn't have any questions, I ask for your approval.
Just a quick comment. I think they look beautiful. I remember when they all were not consistent and everything, and so I appreciate that, and I'm ready to move forward unless anybody has any comments.
Okay, I hear a motion from Trustee Gasson. Do we have a second? Trustee Pickus, thank you. Any questions? No? All those in favor? 7 plus our student trustee. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Francesca Whitcomb bringing us the approval of resolution number 27-2425, non-reemployment of certificated employees.
Good evening, Dr. Smith, trustees, and Maddie over there. Hi. So before you, this is sometimes referred to as a final layoff resolution. It's formally known as a non-reemployment resolution. As you're aware, back in, oh my goodness, March, we unfortunately had the initial layoff resolution that we brought forward for certificated staff. This resolution basically outlines the 3 employees that unfortunately are still slated for some type of reduction or layoff at the end of the school year at this point, and we are legally required to provide them with a notice prior to May 15th in this regard, and so that is why we're bringing this resolution forward in this timing.
Questions, comments? This is a roll call vote, but I do need a first and second. Trustee Alexander, thank you with the first. Trustee Butler with a second. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Butler.
Aye.
Trustee Gasson.
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson, aye. Trustee Lamota.
Aye.
Trustee Mack.
Aye.
Trustee Pickus.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is approval of resolution number 28 for 2024-2025 non-reemployment of classified employees, excuse me.
Right. This item, again, similarly, but yet a little different. We have classified staff, both that are considered specially funded and then not specially funded, like funded through our general fund. And those 2 types of employees have different layoff notification requirements. However, I am bringing forward, staff is bringing forward on this resolution a kind of a combination of any of the classified positions that are still subject to layoff. And you do have a revision. There was a revision made based on the displacement rights of a particular employee. And so how this works with classified staff is a little different than certificated in that each of the employees affected by layoff are provided with their displacement or bumping rights if they have any. And they have a time frame by which they have to notify human resources if they want to exercise those displacement rights and bump into something else that they have entitlement to, another position next year, or do they choose to opt to be laid off? And so the resolution was revised based on the information I received from that employee of their selection to opt for layoff as opposed to exercising their displacement rights. And so the employees listed on here are on this list because they were least senior in their job classification and therefore subject to layoff because of the elimination of their position, or they opted for layoff rather than displacing into another position. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm happy to clarify if there's questions about that.
Questions, and we have 2 public comments. Trustee Gasson, did you want to raise a question?
So I think you said if somebody declined, so I know that you can bump somebody out, but the change is that somebody declined to take another position? Is that, if you decline to take another position, if you get bumped and decline to take something else, then you could be on the list?
So
it's weird to me that it's more, I guess is what's throwing me off, that there's more people.
It's not that there's more people. The positions themselves were always subject to being eliminated. It's just that the employees in each of these job classifications has the option of exercising their displacement rights into a previous classification.
Okay.
Or bumping someone less senior than them.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll take our public comments. We have Oz Beckers and Don Nicodemus.
Good evening again, Board of Trustees. Thank you for taking my comment. I am here tonight again to defend my position. Hopefully, I'm hoping for a miracle and hopefully be here past June 30th. I love working here, and that's not something I thought I'd say before, but I'm here to speak on my contributions in digital communications, accessibility, and staff support, and those contributions have been substantial, and losing my job jeopardizes these critical areas. I want to underscore the value that I've consistently delivered, spearheading eye-catching graphic design campaigns, including but not limited to our calendar magnets, our yearly info postcards, and our annual report. I've dramatically increased Parent Square engagement, providing crucial weekly support to our office managers, and expertly leading our WCAG, our web content accessibility guideline compliance efforts, a non-negotiable aspect of our district's responsibility. I have over 10 hours of Parent Square professional development with 5 more booked, and that is might be a small claim, but not a claim no one else in the district can make. I've increased the district's usage of Parent Square, highlighting overlooked features and providing an increased sense of productivity for our office managers, of which I am hands-on with weekly. I visit 3 schools alongside with Leslie Benjamin, and we are hands-on with the office managers, and I give them hands-on support that they are equally grateful for. My expertise as well was recently validated by the California Public Schools Relations Association when I was selected out of hundreds of submissions to give a talk on web content accessibility, digital solutions, and strategies. That room was nearly packed full of education professionals that wanted to hear what I had to say about digital accessibility. Ironically, it was my first day back here after my incredibly successful presentation when I was given my layoff notice. I was not congratulated, I was given a layoff notice. This one moment has already gotten attention from other regional education organizations who have reached out and asked to have me talk to their county staff and speak on my expertise. They are choosing to invest in the future. Our district is instead choosing to let that expertise go. I emphasize this point as an ally. It might seem like these accessibility guidelines or whatnot might not apply to you, but I stress in my presentations, you cannot ignore these responsibilities. Complete inclusion goes beyond just web pages. It includes all media, photo, flyers, PDFs, agendas, videos, board policies, external, internal forms. All of it has to be compliant so you include everyone. I am one of the region's leading experts in content and digital accessibility strategy and education technology implementation. If this position is cut, the district will inevitably be forced to hire consultants at a far higher cost to fix the very compliance issues I am already solving. The cost of losing this role is not only financial, it impacts enrollment and compromised digital strategy. Retaining my position is crucial, especially as we launch a new website. My deep understanding of the district's digital history and compliance needs, which gained traction only due to legal pressure, is now more vital than ever. I'm only available for 6 more working days after the launch of our new website. Good luck.
Thank you, board members and Superintendent Tracy. I was educated at UC Berkeley, studied programming. Years later, became a program analyst at UC Berkeley. I was one of the top IT people when I was working here, and we had people that did website work before. Cassandra Diaz has come and left. TJ come and left. All talented people. I did the work after them. It's difficult work, even with the most talented people that you've had. It's taken longer than you expect to do the work. I did the work. The best person that we've had is Oz, right? And we're discontinuing the position. It's going to cost you more to not have it. It's going to cost you more in lost possible student enrollments. If you have problems with your website, parents are looking at it, maybe come to the Marin School of the Arts or the STEM program here, but they can't look at it right on the website because there's a glitch. You don't have people with the expertise now to do the kinds of technical level things. You can post documents, make changes to menus maybe, but you don't have the sort of security that you need to prevent graffiti from suddenly getting put on your website by students that might have a problem, you know. There's all kinds of things that are in more engineering level that are contained in the position and in Oz's experience. That the designer title that one of our IT directors created this position with, but it doesn't give you the idea of what the position really does. So I do think it's a huge mistake, and I'm sorry that you couldn't come up with a change. I certainly hope you still do, but.
Question, excuse me.
No, more of a comment, and I think I said this at a prior meeting. I feel bad that these are hard decisions to make, and it's even harder because the impression is that these are not valued people or positions, and that the contributions made don't matter. They do matter, and it's such a hard decision, and there's never a good one to be made. And so speaking for myself, it's not a reflection on the performance that's been committed to our district and the work that was done. It's just when we have to look at everything, where do we need to make cuts, and some things just get cut, not because of the value of the role. So if everyone else is okay, I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? Trustee Pickus, thank you. And this is for the added paperwork, not the one that was in the packet. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Butler.
Aye.
Trustee Gasson.
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson, aye. Trustee Lametta.
Aye.
Trustee Mack.
Aye.
Trustee Pickus.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is the approval of the facilities improvement mural request from Sinaloa Middle School. We have Joshua Braff.
Sorry, my mom was texting me. My mom. Yeah. Yeah, she's fine. Let's see which one this is. I know it's on here. No, they sent out a fun. Is it this? Is it this? Oh, the photo of, yeah, that's probably what it is the photo, huh? So, trustees, we're presenting to you tonight on a new form that you just approved in the consent, as a consent item, which we have been working to try to make a system for how murals work. If you've ever been to a school and talked to teachers and principals, they love murals. I don't know why, because as M&O people, we hate murals. They are a thing that gets written on and tagged on and vandalized, and then no one's an expert painter that knows how to fix it. So how does M&O support? M&O supports by trying to cover them with a clear coat to make it easier to protect the newer murals that we're getting. And what we needed to know that was happening so that we can support you in this one, and so that this is no longer a contentious relationship and we can actually go out and do these things together and make our schools pretty. But we didn't really have a process for that. So we created the mural form. Then there's kind of an extra layer that we realized, and this is the first opportunity that we have for that. And the current mural process is it comes through the whatever group, whether it be PTA, whether it be teachers or ASB, student body, principal themselves. It comes to the principal, they fill out the form, and it comes to the district office where M&O looks at it and says, we don't see anything wrong with this. Yes, we can support by doing the clear coat. FYI, you know that we don't have expert painters. We can't repaint the mural, et cetera, have that conversation. And please make sure that your final iteration of this comes to the superintendent for approval before you actually paint it. Then that extra layer came in, which is, in this case here, this faces the public. So in a lot of our schools, there's plenty of walls that face into the campus. It doesn't affect the group outside. So what we wanted was an opportunity for, hey, in this case here, Sinaloa is requesting to put a mural right on their front office that is facing directly across the street to houses. So we want an opportunity to have this in front of the public so that the public can say, absolutely not, we don't want that. The board can say, we want it, we like it, we don't like it, whatever. Or we can all say, yeah, go ahead. And if in the future you'd rather this be a consent agenda item, it can be. Obviously, the presentation won't be this long every time. It'll be much more succinct. But I wanted to explain the process and why this is coming to you and why not every mural will come to you. Only the ones that face the public reach the point of the public needs to be involved, and therefore the board needs to be involved. So this is at Sinaloa. It's they have a mural now that's on as you're walking up to the school and you're looking at the office, the right-hand side, which is the library, but there's a row of classrooms that lead into that library. Right there, there's currently a mural. This is, we'll call it an extension of the mural. While it doesn't actually touch that piece, it's the same designer, the same style of artwork, but it's now moved to the exact entrance of the mural. It has positive affirmation on it and wildlife, and we ask for your approval on the Sinaloa mural. I don't know what else to say. So
that's enough. Stop talking. Questions, comments? Trustee Butler.
Is there a limit on the number of murals that can be at a school? Because we spend a lot of, I mean, just want to say we spend a lot of money to paint every school over each year, and then I love the murals, no doubt, but I think there might be a limit that we might want to.
Well, I mean, we're on the same page here. Where the nice thing is that Sinaloa was already painted.
Yeah.
And so this is going on top, and then we can clear coat over it. The ones that are a little bit more problematic for us are the ones that are already there. Yeah. Because then when we go in and we have to fix dry rot behind it, it's like we can't save the mural. But people are attached to it for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. Also, this is Azaday. Yeah. She is here as a member of the PTA for Sinaloa, who is running this project. And I apologize, I didn't look far enough in the back to see that you were actually here. That's why I was doing the whole thing by myself and just rambling. But here's a representative from Sinaloa to talk for just a second about the mural.
I won't talk as much as Josh. Basically, I know the neighbors. There is 2 neighbors that live directly across from this particular where this second location is going to go. I am one of the neighbors. I live more further up. Everybody that we have talked to has had positive feedback. Nobody has said anything negative. And even if you talk to the students or the teachers and the neighbors, specifically the 2 neighbors facing the school, are all for it.
Thank you. Trustee Gasson?
Thank you. And actually, I'm good with the whole thing. I think to touch on what Trustee Butler said, ironically, I was driving by a couple of schools that had these murals, and they're like they were beautiful at once, and now they don't look so good. And I had a flashback to, gosh, I think like 6 years ago. There's a mural put up, and somebody painted over it because there was like all this controversy, like how could you do that? So while it's not in front of us right now, I started thinking, okay, at what point, like when they get like you never want to. Especially if kids have designed it, you don't want to paint over. But when you mentioned that, it also just made me think, when it starts getting where the colors aren't there or it's worn out, there's got to be something that, kind of feedback that we might want to like replenish it or paint over or something. So just as long as there's that awareness, I mean, this is beautiful and vibrant and it'll be in the shade, but as stuff kind of over the years just kind of fades out or goes away, just the understanding that maybe we might have to make some adjustments or something.
From Sinaloa's PTA standpoint, we are not going to set the precedence for future PTA boards. However, since we're the one taking on the project and donating a significant amount, we do understand, our board does understand that if we need to fix it,
it wasn't directed at you. It was just more general. Because like I said, I was driving around like, oh, that used to be so beautiful. And now it's in full sun and it's like, it's lost all of it. And I'm like, but we don't want to paint over the hard work and the investment. So anyway, good to go for me.
Does the policy say anything about a caveat of if something needs to be fixed behind the wall? I mean, is it useful to spell that out or not?
That's really the conversation that we have with them in sort of the process. We try to keep our forms, of course, as succinct as possible, but that has been our standard of the conversation, where it does say that like M&O can't be responsible for repairing it. Because that really is that is the main caveat.
I will come do repairs if there's graffiti.
Go for it.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Just that I love murals, and I think we should have so many murals. I love them so much. When there is not a mural and then there's a mural, it just changes the whole vibe and the whole feel. And I think this is so pretty. Yes. And if no one has that in their comments, I would approve this mural and all of the murals.
We have a first by Trustee Pickus and a second by Trustee Lametta. All in favor of this mural? 7 and 1 student trustee. Do you want to say something?
I was just saying, I don't know if I get a vote on that one, but
yes, always. Can I also add that I do think it's important that the community-facing murals do come in open session so that we give community opportunity to speak to it if they need to versus on closed. But I appreciate where the line is with this. Thank you. Okay. Please join us in our next regularly scheduled meeting on May 22nd. Adjourned.